Hi, this is Kai Destiny with T&E Magazine, and we're here today with the talented and sexy Martin Sensmeier. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And I know you remember one of the hottest male ensemble casts in movie history in the movie Magnificent Seven. What was it like working with a legendary actor like Denzel Washington, who's been in Hollywood for over 40 years?
Oh man, it's kind of hard to put it into perspective. But it's just I just see it as a really big blessing. It was an honor and a privilege to work with somebody like him, as well as everybody else that was on that cast. They were all great, But in terms of being able to work with somebody like Denzel and Vincent D'Onofrio and Ethan and Antoine, all these guys, they're all legends in their own right. But it's just for me, it was a big learning experience, and got a lot of positive experience out of that, and
What did you learn on set while working with, people like Denzel and the others you mentioned while filming Magnificent Seven?
You just see the work ethic that those guys have, and how they approach their craft, and what they bring to their roles, and to the set, what they bring to the overall process. It was just. I learned a lot about that. I learned a lot about the process, and just it was, there's so many things. It's the whole thing is a learning experience. It's all a learning experience. I'm continually learning. So, if I'm not working on a movie, I'm studying in class, and it's continue.
Okay.
Every day I try to learn something, and so when you're on a movie set, you have each scene is different, and you're going to do that, and then you're never going to do it again. And I think that if you're a good observer, you'll learn a lot just by watching.
Okay. Now you grew up in Anchorage, Alaska. What made you want to get into entertainment?
I actually grew up in Yakutat. I lived in Anchorage for 5 years, but I didn't grow up there. Yeah.
Okay. So, what made you want to get into the entertainment industry?
A lot of things, I loved the movies growing up, for one. I just loved the movies. My oldest brother is like he loves movies more than anybody I've ever met. And so going to his house to watch a movie was always like an experience, and then doing school plays and stuff like that, I really liked it. And I got to do some extra work and stuff like that. I actually studied in acting class long before I ever got on a set, a TV set or movie set.
Oh wow.
So I kind of got a taste of class, and I enjoyed that. And then when I got on the set and I'd seen these, working as a background actor or extra, I'd see these guys up there doing their thing in their leading roles, and I was like, man, I could do that, And then,
I understand that completely. Well, who would you say are some of your biggest influences in the entertainment industry, and why?
Antoine Fuqua and Denzel Washington. I can start with them. Because those guys, I watched Training Day when I was a senior in high school, and when it came out, and man, that movie was like, it just made me want to move to LA. I wanted to act. I loved it. And I was like, man, Denzel, he was it.
You spoke it into
he was the guy. He was, and that was like a couple of years after he got game. So and then so I was like, man, Denzel's killing it. And
act, believe, and receive.
Yeah, and of course, I have to go back to like Chief Dan George and Graham Greene and Wes Studi and all the movies those guys, because those were the first like real big name native actors, and then and they were just like Graham and Chief Dan George both got nominated for an Oscar, and those guys, I actually got to work with Graham Greene earlier this year on a movie called Wind River that'll be out next year, and that one has
spoiler alert.
Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen, and Johnny Bernthal's in it. Written and directed by Taylor Sheridan. That should be a good one. But yeah, no. So they're all like Van Damme. I loved Van Damme movies when I was a kid.
Yeah.
so everything. I loved all the movies. Like every movie. There was very rare that I watched a movie I didn't like. I liked the movie so much. I watching corny movies, and some of them were good.
Well, what would you say are some of the largest obstacles you had to overcome so far in your career?
The largest obstacles. Well, just getting the first job for one. First job I ever got. Came out about the 100th audition. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So you can start that.
Consistency.
And I think the obstacle, the biggest obstacle, was just deciding that this is what I wanted to do, and then making that decision, and then everything, all of my like my drive, my work ethic, everything. My time, everything I did accommodated the goal and the dream, So, and so that's the commitment I made once I made that decision. Before that, I was kind of like half in, half out,
Yeah.
It's never, like I would get, pushing, I was, get the later 20s, and you're like thinking like, well, I worked on an oil rig for 5 years and was working construction before that, so. And so, I didn't really have college education that, I could get a job where I wasn't doing hard back-breaking work. And, as an actor, it's still the kind of that thing of like, well, what's to keep me, I have to keep working and hopefully I'll keep booking roles, because if I don't, then, that's what I have to fall back on, my oil, and I'm not really like thinking about that like it's something I want to do,
Yeah, I understand. Now, can you let like some of our readers know that how your Native American culture plays a role in like your everyday life, and what do you do to stay true to your culture while working in Hollywood?
Well, it's with me everywhere I go. It's how I treat people. It's in my values, So I think being what it means to be a tribal person for my tribe. It's in the value system. So it's being a good person, and there's a lot of things that are part of that value system. Self-sufficiency, working hard, work ethic, all those things. So that right there, is a part of everyday life, but as far as like the cultural events and stuff, like I travel home for that sometimes, as much as I can, and try, and then on top of that, try to do work in the community. That's another cultural traditional value that we have is to be, try to be provide mentorship to the younger generation, right?
Okay.
So
I'd like to know, what is your take? What is your take on like the North Dakota pipeline protest that's going on the Native American reservation there? What do you think people can do to help out?
Well, there's several websites, that that you can go to to donate. Indian Country Today Media Network is a media outlet that has several links on it. You know, there's a bunch on there, but there's like standingrock.net. I think that one has a lot of like other links to several, because there's several like Sacred Stone Camp. You know, that's another one.
We'll actually have that at the bottom of our interview in the magazine so that our readers can go there to help out. Because I know that was some of the questions we had received prior to the interview from staff and just fans of yours once we told them you were going to be on the cover. And I want to know, like, how do you balance your career, personal life, and activism? Because I know you're really active in the community.
Well, I mean, I just, you know, I don't know. I don't know how I manage it, really. You know,
the jack of all trades.
There's a method to my madness, and it's hard to describe, you know.
No, but you're doing it. You're doing it.
Something, you know, works there, I guess.
Now, touching bases on your personal life, I know a lot of the TNE staff would like to know: are you single? Dating?
Is this going in the interview or not?
This is going in the interview.
Well, then I'd say that's classified information.
All right, we'll just accept that as a
no spoilers
answer. All right, so afterwards, don't worry. Afterwards, I'll get the scoop, and I won't tell anyone. So that's just between us. And I want to know, like, what advice do you have for up-and-coming actors coming into Hollywood, kind of discouraged? What do you have to tell them?
Just study and learn, you know, and work, and you know, whatever, you know. Like, I think that, you know, unless you're, I mean, you have to study if you want to get better. Then you gotta be acting. You know, it's kind of like acting to me. Like, it's like, think of a professional athlete. To perform at their best, they are training all the time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like a musician, somebody who's in a band or something, they're playing their instruments all the time. You know, they're always practicing. And so, like, if you're an actor and acting is your tool or your instrument, or that's your art, then you know, you should be practicing, you know, that way.
Mm-hmm. Even when you're off the screen, and a lot of people don't like to do that, but that's actually really good advice for people to know. Yeah,
and I think, you know, for somebody who's up and coming, you know, just to get in there and don't be afraid to commit to that, you know, process of learning, you know, and it's a slow process, you know, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight. Like, people, you don't just get discovered overnight. You're not going to come to Hollywood, you know, because you think you look good, and then, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that, though.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, a lot of people, you know, fall in love with the way that they look, and that doesn't necessarily mean that a casting director or somebody else is going to fall in love with the way you look. You know, there's somebody else that looked just like you, just came in, you know, and auditioned 5 minutes ago. You know, so, you know, that might get you in the door, but then you got to have talent, or you got to have skill, you know, and you know, you got to learn the craft. So, you know, get in there and study, find a good teacher and good class, or, you know, if you go to school, then take that route, and, you know, learn it, study it, and
well, what advice, or what do you have to say to the TNE readers about your upcoming projects for 2017? Like, what are the projects you're working on for 2017? What do you have in store for us?
I got, you know, Wind River's going to come out at some point. That one will be out. I think the Weinstein company just picked it up, so it's going to get distribution, I believe. I don't know how any of that works anyway, so, you know, it doesn't make sense to include that. You can just Google it or look it up, figure out when it's coming out. Yeah. that information is probably out there. I just haven't looked at it, you know. So that movie will be out. You know, that's got a big cast in it. And then you know, tune in next week to Westworld. You know, I'm in the finale.
Of course, love that show.
Yeah, so I'm in there somewhere. You know, I did some work on that show.
Yes, that cast is phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great. And then I'm doing another film in January with Eddie Alcazar, who's directed it. Abby Cornish is starring in it. Film called Puberty, and then got a few other things potentially may happen. We'll see, to be determined. So, but you know, hopefully keep my fingers crossed. Hopefully be working on something, you know, right after that.
Yeah.
So the goal is to stay busy.
Well, we're rooting for you here. What would you like to tell your fans in closing?
Man, I just appreciate all the love that I get everywhere I go, and you know, and to the people that have seen my work, what little of it's out there so far, that you know, hope you enjoyed it, and you know, got more coming. But I appreciate all the support that I get, and you know, I don't take it for granted.
Well, Tierney would like to thank Martin Sensmeier for taking the time out of his busy schedule to grant us this interview. We're going to have the links of everything he discussed below, as well as all the latest information on Martin's upcoming projects, and we're to follow him on all his social media pages. So thanks again, Martin. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Not a problem. Well, I'm Kai Destiny, and thank you for listening to Teeny Magazine.